Basically, this is the building Canvas course, level 3 training. So I am writing up on the board here so that you guys can see it, and the people who are listening to this recording. There are 3 areas that you can use Canvas within your course. And I'm not just talking strictly online, but face-to-face as well. And so there's the communication, content, and assessment. These 3 areas, there are tools that we can use within Canvas to accomplish those 3 things. And so if you're considering just barely using Canvas, you may start with just the communication component. That's the inbox, which is just private conversations between students. Right? This is a one-to-one communication tool. Or you can use discussions. And this is a one-to-many, meaning that I post something and everyone in the class can see it. And that's the same with the announcement tool. This is a one-to-many. And in Canvas, and we'll see that in a little bit, announcements can also become interactive. People can comment on your announcements and have a dialogue back and forth. So it doesn't just mean it's just a one-to-many and then that's it. Like with Angel. With Angel, you post an announcement and it's there, and if you don't know if students are reading it or not. But with Canvas, students can comment on that, ask questions for clarification, and so on with the announcement tool. Okay? And then there are 2 other tools that we put in our theoretical/fictional, I don't think it's fictional, but eventually level 4 training. Okay? And that's the conference tool and then collaborations. These 2 tools we haven't had a chance to test yet. And they're going to require more planning than what we're ready for in this first pilot. The conferencing tool is a complete webinar tool so that you can record it for up to 14 days. It'll be saved up on Canvas. But it allows us to do something similar to this, but then have people connecting at a distance, sharing your desktop, and so on. And then
Something for advisors to use?
It could.
For all the students in the courses?
Yep. And then the collaboration tool allows you to share a document with your students. So if they were working on a group project, like a Word document or a PowerPoint, using Google Docs or another tool, they're able to collaborate on a single document. And it keeps track of who's done what and those kinds of things in editing and that. And so we won't be touching on that at all, but those are 2 other ways that you can use Canvas for communication. Conference tool would be a synchronous, just to give you some vocabulary, a synchronous tool for doing class sessions. Okay, so for communication in Canvas, you have multiple options. Some of the other ones that we'll look at are, and people sometimes don't consider this, the grades area, which provides students communicating what their grades are in the class up to the minute that you grade things. And I'm trying to think if there were any other tools. If not, if there are, we'll come back. Okay. So with content in level 2, we talk a lot about, and even in level 1, the Pages tool. We use that quite a bit in Canvas. The other one is files. Those are the 2 main ways that you can provide content. We're not going to go into a ton of detail on anything else, but those are the 2 areas that we're going to be using. And then in assessment, you have the assignment tool, discussion, and quiz tool. Those are the 3 ways to do assessments in Canvas. And so we're going to go through each of these tools, look at the different settings that you can have, and we're going to do our best to get this all done in about an hour. And then we'll leave the last 30 minutes for Q&A and kind of have a dialogue around these particular tools. Okay? So, I'm going to jump into a course. I think I'm going to go in the pizza course. So we're all about food. Okay. So within this pizza course, if you haven't got a chance to attend level 2, or just as a quick overview, within the tool, you have, as you can see in there, we have pages, we have discussions, different assignments, and then one of the things that we want you guys to start thinking about is being creative or providing a variety of types of assessments for your students. Just because you have quizzes doesn't mean you have to stuck with multiple choice matching type questions. We've been playing with using video within quizzes, narrated PowerPoints within a quiz. And so one of the things, like and we did this even in Angel, we had an instructor record the audio for a presentation. We chopped it up and then asked questions in the middle of this presentation. So you would be presented with a video of how to do something, and then 2 or 3 practice questions. And then another video with 2 or 3 more practice questions. And so the students are doing their homework through a quiz or their lectures through a quiz tool. But you're getting that feedback. How are they getting this stuff from my lecture? Okay? All right. So we're going to just start with some of the communication tools. Does everyone feel comfortable with like the inbox within Canvas? The conversation tool. Okay. If we need to, I can go into detail on that one. Should I? Okay. Okay. So the inbox is up in your a help corner. Okay. It's always there. It's not tied to a particular course, but you can filter all of your conversations by course. Okay. So to compose a new message, and I just as an aside, I am using the new conversation tool, so it may look different to you than mine. You may have the old one. I try to go back and forth in between, just because eventually the new conversation tool will be the only conversation tool. And to do that, that little question mark in the corner, click that and say try new conversations. The new conversation tool has a lot more features, and it's a little bit more, that's where they're developing and they're putting in all their work. Okay? Up here in the inbox. Okay? So if I want to compose a new message, I click the Compose New Message button, and then I can select a course, right? So if I wanted to email someone in my biology class, then as I start to type someone's name, okay, it will show up in the list. And it's only going to bring up Sam in the biology course, right? So if I was to do no course and then just start typing Sam, all of Canvas shows up. Okay, so you can email anyone in Canvas.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Can I select 12 courses and all the students in there?
Yes. So instead of selecting courses, you would use the address book. Okay, and so then I would say, oh, I want this course, students, all students. Then I would do the same for this other course. I don't have that, and then I would do that. So now I can email 12 courses, 100 courses, everybody in there. The key thing,
if I'm sick and I'm not going to be in class, then that's
email all 4 of them at the same time. The thing you want to make sure that you check is, well, maybe, depending on the message. If you check, if you don't want, okay, let me back up. If you don't check this box right here, send individual messages, it will go as a group message to all 12 courses, or however many groups of courses that you've selected. And when any one of those students responds, it's going to go to everybody. Okay? So if you don't want the replies going out to everybody, make sure you check send individual messages. That only applies when you're sending a group message, like to a whole class or to a group of people. Now, where that comes in handy is, let's say I wanted to email all 7 of you who are in the conference right now, the training, and said and then I wanted to hear back. When would be a great time to follow up with you all? Right? I want to have everyone hear the times and the dates that people are providing. So we're going to have a study group on Canvas later on. I want everybody to hear the responses so that everyone can kind of chime in. Oh, that works for me, rather than having me be the middleman. If I don't check that, then everyone will be able to accomplish that. If I don't want you guys to know what I said, perfect example, 5 students didn't come to class last week. I'm going to email all 5 and say, hey, why weren't you in class? But I don't want to have all 5 of those students hear the excuses of everybody else, right? So that's how I'd use that. I would check send individual message. Okay? You can attach files, just like with any message, by clicking the little paper clip in the corner. You're also able to insert media recordings. So if you wanted to send a video email to your students, you can. Okay? As long as you have a webcam, you can record video that way. Okay? All right. Then just thing to reiterate, every message that you ever have with your students, both through this tool and any feedback you provide, general feedback you provide through the assignment grader, will show up here for those students. Okay? So, for example, this student here, she submitted her assignment via email, and then she did do it through the Dropbox. I want to find one where, let's see. And these are my real students, so I'm not seeing one now. This is just between Curtis and I. It wasn't a real email. Curtis emailed me in the last training and said, you really need to get some work done in my class. And I said, I know, but your class is boring. And so every message too, and this is a good example, we've been working in Canvas since September. Every message that we've had since then is in here. Okay? That was a fun time. Okay, so that is every single message since September with Curtis. Okay? September 25th, 2013. And that's a good thing, because now if you have a student across multiple semesters, that dialogue that you've had with those students are there through that whole time.
Heal cancer?
Yes. Canvas has made my family healthier, brought my family together. I heard it can heal cancer.
That is so sweat or sweet?
Sweet.
Sweat.
Okay. So that is the one-to-one communications, right? Not everyone, but it can be, again, a one-to-many with that group conversation. All right? So other ways to communicate, I'm going to jump back into the pizza course. Is the announcement tool. And so with announcements, and that's on the left hand on your navigation, this is a tool that you can use. Okay, so in here, this was an announcement that Curtis made at the beginning of a class, right? Trying to get everyone excited about taking the pizza class. We're going to make pizzas, so please be early, and so on, right? So that's the announcement that we sent out to our students. To send an announcement or make one is as simple as clicking Make an Announcement button and then typing in your message. It can have pictures, it can have video, whatever you need. I have one instructor who's using it as kind of a supplemental instruction each week. So here's my lectures are already loaded in the class, but here's a video I found that helps cover this particular topic I want you to read. Bill, I know you usually post cartoons from time to time in your classes. Same thing. This would be a way to do that. Okay?
Do the announcements stay on there?
They stay on there for the rest of the semester. And then the student has to basically clear that announcement once they've got it. And that goes up on their homepage. So once you post an announcement on your homepage, the student will see that announcement, and then their little X, they can clear that notification that they got that announcement.
But on our end as instructors,
It stays there. So when you copy your course, all of those announcements will still be there, which is sometimes good or bad depending on how you do it. I have basically some similar announcements that I make in my classes at the beginning of every unit, and I want those there. I may adjust some things, but it's the general announcements I want to keep in my online class. If not, I think they're gone because the dates are passed, and we'll have to look at that, how how it works.
Can't delete them?
You can delete them.
I want to delete.
So let's see.
Because I think initially I was using the announcements, I'm tending more to use email.
Yeah.
I was using announcements as like, hey, just a reminder, this and this, but I don't think that's going to apply to the next semester's course.
Right. And so on those, see, I just have to put a check next to any of those announcements and then click the trash can. So you can delete all of those announcements right away. Okay? And then one of the things that you probably will want to do, see this here, I closed it for comments. If you don't want to have students commenting on your announcements, there's a gear. Let me just make a new one real quick so you can see that. Okay. I think it needs a picture.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't put a cinnamon roll up there. I have trouble with that.
That's the next one.
That does sound like a good idea. We'll do a culinary arts on cinnamon rolls for the next class. That'll be good. All right, so I got that looks like a taco type or veggie pizza there with all the delicious tomatoes and whatnot. Okay, so from the announcement screen, see this one's not locked. Okay, I can then come to the gear for that announcement and close for comments. Okay. Students can comment on it by just clicking the reply, just like a discussion in the class. And that can happen if you don't close it. So if you don't want that, click on your announcement as soon as you make it, click the gear, close for comments, and then all they get is the announcement. They can't comment on it. Okay? All right. One of the other things that you can do is see this option over here, Add External Feeds. Okay, what this is, I don't know if you guys have, like if you were teaching a vocabulary, let's see, NASA has something too. Image of the day. So for the astronomy class that we teach online, the instructor found NASA posts an image every day of something out in space. And so he wanted, just as a way to, not really an announcement, but something that as soon as the students come into the class, there's something new to look at. Okay? So what you can do, it's called an RSS feed. Let's see. Here we go. So that is Saturn. Trying to find the feed here. Let's see if maybe it's on this screen.
Are you trying to entice us to take the astronomy class?
You know what? It's full all the time, but if you want, I would encourage you guys to take it. It's a really good course. I'm not biased because it was all instructor, but I did help put that one together. So, I am not seeing the RSS feed from here. Anyways, we'll do a different one then. Just real quick here, we want word of the day.
It's Pi Day, so PI. It's Einstein's birthday.
Oh, is it really?
And it's 3.14 pi, so it's March 14th.
Yep,
Pi Day. So we need to eat pie.
we do. And if you go over to the math department, they have lots of pie for you to go eat.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know.
All right. So today's word. So there's a. Let's see here. Here we go. So I'm just going to. It usually will be an XML file or something that you need to find. But it'll be an RSS feed. And if you have more questions about that when you go do it, just let me know. I'm going to do the full article add feed. Okay, so now we've had this external feed that went every day, and that didn't work the way I wanted to, but that's okay. There is a way to, and I'll play with that and get a better tutorial on this for you guys. But there is a way to add those external feeds on a regular basis so that an announcement's made every day on your behalf. What that does is it creates the impression that your class, that you're in there all the time, putting things in for your students. Now you will be with Canvas. I'm finding I'm in there almost every day in my class, which is a good thing. But it's not like hours every day. It's 10, 15 minutes, check email, grade a couple assignments that came in, and then I'm done. Having those announcements post regularly also keeps students coming back because there's going to be something new for me to come in there. If you don't have anything that changes, you're going to have a harder time getting students to interact in your class. Because they just come in once a week to do their homework and that's it. But if our goal is to encourage them to continually come in so they're being an active participant in the class. Because it would be like a face-to-face class and the students all sit there like bumps on a log and they're not interacting with you. And in an online class there isn't a real class time, and so we got to provide other things for them to do.
So you couldn't get it to work the way you wanted it to work?
But this was the first time I actually used the external feed tool, and should never do that in live training. So
So I just found like this website, Daily Physical Therapy News.
yep.
Could I use this?
There's a good chance that you'll be able to take the URL for that and paste it in there to make it as a feed.
Just like
Yep.
whatever's up here?
And I will play with that, and I will send out a way to do that better.
And then, so then there's a drop down and I would do the link only, or?
You could. It depends on how you want it to post. If you did the link only, it would just provide a link every day to the new article that's been posted. If you do the full article, they would be able to see that. The truncated option basically kind of gives a snippet of the article, and they have to click a link to get the rest. And that might be the one you want. What you'd want to do is probably play with it to see what it looks like when it loads, because it's going to depend on the feed. Okay? All right. Any questions about the announcement tool before we get moving? Okay. So the other tool is the grades tool. This is what you see when you click on the gradebook. Okay. I'm going to come in via the student. So when I click on grades, and this is the only class that this particular student has, right? I have the grades in my assignment. And this one I got graded on. Okay? One of the things that your students can do is what's called a what-if score. Now, all of us do that in our classes. When we take classes, we're like, well, how hard do I need to work? Maybe I'm the only one, but we'll just pretend I'm not. How hard do I have to work on this paper? Or how hard do I need to study for this exam? Let's say, what happens if I get a 50 on this one? So I get 10 out of 15 on this test. It'll adjust my score. So I can actually play in the gradebook to see, okay, if I get a 90 on this one and a 20 on this one, I'm going to have an 87.7% in the class. Oh, I don't have to try too hard. Or maybe I need to try harder, right? And then they just can click that. It does show when someone uses this. This is not your official score, right? So there's no confusion. They can't just say, well, I put the score in there. Look, I had a 20 and then it's not anymore. What'd you do to my grade? Okay, it's a what-if score. And so that just is something for them to play with so they can figure out what their grade is. And that is handy when you're using a weighted grade book.
So where did the students go to find them?
They just click on grades.
They click on grades, and then over on the
Well, they just have to click on the score.
They just go into scores and change the score.
That's correct.
Okay.
So they just go in here, they click on the score, and they can change it to see if I get this, and then it affects their final grade. Because with a percentage grade book, if you don't know, I mean, that's a little bit more complicated figuring out, especially like, well, how do I know what a 20.2% of my final grade is? Because you can go to 2 decimal places on your percentages if you wanted to in the grade book. I encourage you not to, but you can, because Canvas is doing the math, you're not. So, okay? So that's the grades area within Canvas. Okay? So let me go back to my list here.
How do you delete that when you are through?
There's a button on the right-hand side that says Show Actual Grades. Revert to actual scores, and that takes it back to nothing. Okay? So the only other one we haven't touched on, and we will go into this more as we get into the assessment, is the discussions tool. Okay? So I wanted to touch on real quickly content, just to kind of as a review. Now remember, whenever you're creating, we'll do some common ingredients pages. Okay? When you're creating a page, right, we just go into edit this page. You're able to use this page like you would a folder in Angel. You can load video, you can load documents, you can load just text, images, and so on. And so if we were going to create an other ingredients page, maybe I want to start off with a title, right? So I'm going to put in other ingredients and actually spell it correctly.
Pages is under modules or where?
It is under modules. And since you're in that class, Bill, as a student, you won't be able to get the same screen that I am.
Right.
Okay? All right, so I want to make this a little bit bigger so that it's more of a title, right? So I'm going to come over to font size, choose 18 point, bold it, maybe I'll center it, okay? All right. So then I'll unbold and left align for the next paragraph. And I'm going to put in an image of, now you like to use Flickr because the Creative Commons license allows me to use these images without having to worry about copyright infringement or anything like that. So if you find anything with the Flickr search, you can use it in your courses. So we're going to say pizza ingredients. There we go. This one looks good. That's a little bit big, so I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. Okay. All right. All right. Actually spell that correctly. All right. So I could link this out to a pepperoni page, maybe. So I'm going to just find a website on the history of pepperoni. That works. Okay, so I'm going to use the hyperlink tool. Okay, so when they click pepperoni, it'll take them to the history of pepperoni. For veggies, though, I'm going to have a video. I'm going to click that Public Collections button. And I'm going to go to YouTube and search for pizza veggies. See what we get here. Best grilled veggie pizza. Sure. Okay, so now that's inserted in there about veggies. And then maybe I have a document that I want to load. Let's see, I'm going to upload I have a pizza PowerPoint, history of the pizza that I want in there. I'm going to upload that. Okay. And then I have a PDF of a menu for a restaurant I want the students to go to. And that's not how you spell restaurant. Okay, so I'll upload a new Okay, so now I have my page created. Some of the other settings that you can do, you can hide this page from students so they can't see it, and maybe you're not ready for it yet, or you're still working on it. If you check that box, it'll hide it. Just remember to uncheck it when you're ready for students to see it. And then you can also set it up so that anyone in the course, or teachers and students, can edit the page. So this could almost become another assessment, because maybe you're having students develop a study guide as a class. If you create it so they can edit, they will see the Edit This Page button and be able to insert text, links, things like that onto the page themselves. Okay? All right. So, like I said, I created this pepperoni link. It'll open up in a new window, take them to that article. The video they can play right in the page. And okay, that guy's going to talk about making pizza. I can preview the PowerPoint right here in my browser. So there's the whole history of the pepperoni pizza. Okay. And then I have the PDF menu that'll pop up as well. Okay. If I need my students to download that document, they click the link, and then they can download that PDF and use it on their own computer, save it to their computer. Same with the PowerPoint. Okay. All right. So that's the page tool. You know, I kind of combine files as well. But within files, think of this as just like what's on your computer when you're organizing your files for your class. So we uploaded those two documents just directly into the files area when we were working on the page. But I really want to move this guy into the folder for Container for PowerPoints. I just click, hold, and drop it in the folder. Now, that history of the pizza PowerPoint is located in my PowerPoint folder. Okay? Let's see. I can create new folders, so maybe I have a PDF folder. Okay, so now I can move that guy in there. Notice though, in our pages area, and that was other toppings, was that the page? Nope. Common ingredients. The links to the history of the PowerPoint still work, even though I moved it in the files area. And I'm still able to download because Canvas fixed my link in my course. So if you move stuff around in your course, you're not going to mess things up if you've already linked to that document. So there's two philosophies. Set up your folders, your files first, and then link to them, or link to them and then kind of rearrange it as things get messy. I prefer to go in and have my folder structure in place first, but for training, I just kind of start throwing stuff in there. Okay? Any questions about the file area at this point? Okay, so once you have your files in there, I encourage you to use the Pages tool to present your content.
I use a lot of PowerPoint, and so this is where I would load the PowerPoint
Yep.
for my chapters.
Yep, and so there's several ways to organize that. You could have it by week, and then you say, well, here's the PowerPoint for this week, or like we did here, siloed PowerPoints, PDFs, Word docs. You decide what makes sense in your mind, and then load those up there. And then once they're in your course, then you can link to them on those pages.
Another question. Is there anything that we can transfer from Angel into this program?
Yes.
We basically have to start over.
Well, we encourage you to start from scratch, but not necessarily building everything, right? You already have a lot of your content in Angel. Okay, so because of the way Canvas is structured, modules are somewhat similar to folders, but they're not the same. So it's actually faster to have both windows open. So log into Angel in one browser window, create a new browser window, and log into Canvas. And then kind of just, well, you can't drag, but you would let's say you're working on Chapter 1's folder. So I create a Chapter 1 module in Canvas. And then I uploaded a PDF, a PowerPoint. I'll download those and then upload them into my course, and then create a page for that particular chapter, and then link those files on there. If I had a quiz, I'll export that quiz from Angel, import it into Canvas. Okay? And so I was working on my biology course, and I did the same thing for Unit 3 just recently. I had it open in Angel, and I just went back and forth. I created pages for everything that I had in Angel, or I combined things, and then I just copied the page content and pasted it onto a Canvas page. So it took me about 3 hours for that one unit, but I also was changing how I did one lab. Instead of doing it as a Word document, I created a quiz. And so I created a quiz from scratch that I had to build and change some things in my course. But when I was just going one unit to one unit, it took me an hour to get all of Unit 2 from Angel into Canvas.
Now,
Okay.
next fall, I'm going to have 2 classes that are going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
So once I get one of those classes done, can I just make a duplicate copy and move it to the other course?
Sure. The question was, can I copy and make a duplicate course? The answer is yes. Or you can what's called cross-list those courses and keep them all together so that you don't have to build 2 sections. Or you can copy them and have them exactly the same. And once you have one built, you just copy this course and bring it over. If they meet on different days and you're going to have different due dates, Canvas has a feature to change dates. So if you have one class that's a Monday, Wednesday, you can say for when I copy this course, I want to make it Tuesday, Thursday. And it will automatically make everything that was due on Wednesday due on Thursday. So it's definitely very easy to get content from one course to the other. Okay? All right. Okay. Yep.
Where would you find the YouTube in that? Is that on the public collections?
Yes. So when you're inserting video, the reason we use public collections is because it's not just YouTube, but it's also Khan Academy and lots of other video sites, about 20 or so sites out there that you can click on to get video and other content.
I found it says page not found. Is that because
We'll look at that in a little bit. It's probably a browser setting. Okay. All right. So the real meat of any course, well, meat, pizza, I don't know. When we go back to our course design checklist, right? We have our content listed there either through the pages or files, and then we have our assessments. We want those aligned to our objectives. So we have our main objectives of this particular course is that students will be able to make a delicious pizza and we won't get salmonella when we eat it. Okay, that's on our rubric for the final. So one of the things we have to do is make sure that we lead our students along to get to that objective. And that's where the assignments come into play. Okay, so the assignment tool in Canvas, if you click on assignments here, this is actually where you set up your grade book. Okay, so you're creating your assignment groups. If you're used to Angel, those are your assignment categories. They just call them assignment groups here. And so in this course, we have exams, final exam, discussions, quizzes, and assignments. Okay? And then they're broken down by percentages over here. If I don't want percentages, I just uncheck that, and now it's just a points-based grade book. Okay? Now it's a percentage-based grade book. All right? So if I want to add a new assignment within, let's say I want to add the final exam. Well, the final exam is actually going to be an assignment because in this class they're submitting their pizza, right? So I'm going to call this pizza submission. Okay? It's due on this day at 10 a.m. because that's when our class meets right before lunch. Okay? And it is worth 1 million points. No. We'll just put 100. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and click more options. I could, and this is what's nice about, you could rapidly create your grade book by just plugging those assignments in one right after the other. Okay? You don't have to go in and enter all of the the instructions. If you're going to link to a file, let's say you're creating an exam, you don't have to have all the questions. You can just kind of create a placeholder for all of your assignments. So if you have your course guide sitting next to you, you know what categories you have, you put those in really quickly. You know how many exams you're going to have, or quizzes. You're going to know how many final, midterm, discussions that you're going to have in your class, and so on. Go ahead and plug all those in. Then once they're created, I can then click on them right here, and it takes me straight to that particular exam. And this is actually an assignment. So I don't know why it's in the exam category, but it already has a rubric that we've attached. Okay? So for this one, so I'm going to create a new discussion. So I have discussion 2. In the type, I'm going to choose discussion. I can put in that due date of the 27th. Let's make sure, it's due 11:59 p.m. You got those 4 extra minutes now. Don't waste them. Okay, and this one's going to be worth 25 points. Instead of just clicking update, I want to go ahead and put in the instructions for this discussion. So I'm going to click more options. All right, so now I can, discuss pizza. All right. Not real complicated for this class. It is a graded one because I already put points possible in that other window. So it automatically checked it as graded. Okay, I'm going to keep it as points. It's going to go in the assignment group for discussions. And then I can come in here and say, well, this one's it's available until the 27th at 11:59. So after that point, they're not able to post anymore. Right? If I didn't put this date, just because it's due, they still would be able to post, but it would mark it as a late submission. Okay? So you may leave that off if you accept late work. Okay?
Is there any way to put in different time zones?
You don't need to, because the students can set up their own time zone through their profile settings.
Oh, okay.
And so it'll adjust. So the only caveat to that, I had a student in another class that set theirs to the Eastern time zone. And so everything in my class is set to Mountain. At 11:59 p.m., everything is due that night. So it said February 25th, 11:59. She had her set to Eastern, so it said February 26th, 1:59 a.m. So that student thought she had until 11:59 on the 26th. And so she was disappointed, but I let that instructor know, they need to make sure they also check the time that those assignments are due. Don't just rely on the date and assume. So if they're going to change their time zone, which is a good thing because now I don't have to do the time zone math to figure out when my assignment's really due, but it can get me if I'm not careful. So I always let people know, be flexible on those first few assignments because of that reason, and only in online classes. Everyone else, they're in the same time zone as you. It's not going to hurt. Okay? So we'll go ahead and save this discussion. Okay? So this is what a discussion tool looks like. Right? So the student would come in, I need to discuss pizza. They click reply, discuss pizza. All right? And that could be a question. I could have put a video in there for them to watch first. Could have been an image that I want them to comment on, and so on. Okay? Then all they have to do is click reply. There's nothing confusing about the discussion tool.
Did you already talk about if you want them to interact with maybe 2 or 4 students in the class?
For like a group work, there isn't an easy way to do that.
Okay.
If you wanted to keep a kind of a group conversation going just for that discussion, there is a group tool within Canvas, but what it does is it almost creates a whole other class where everyone has equal editor rights within that course, so they could create discussions on their own, every student. And so there isn't a good equivalent to like the private team journal that Angel had.
Okay. Couldn't you use it through your inbox and start a...
You could do a group conversation that way.
So
Yeah.
2 students, and then that way every time they reply, they can see each other's...
Yep.
But it couldn't be graded.
What I would do is create an assignment that had a no submission, which we'll look at in a second here. and then I would just go in and look at that conversation because I would be part of that group email.
Yeah.
And so I would see all the replies that happened, and then I would then say, okay, these students participated and they got their full points. Okay?
Would you mind going back a second where you were showing the rubric? How did you get that on?
Okay? So for an assignment, so we'll go ahead and jump into an assignment. This is a perfect, because we're going to edit this Italian meat identification assignment. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and edit this one. So these are where you put your instructions. Right, so for this one, you'll be shown images of meats, identify them. It's worth 10 points. And then I go through and I can set up how I want those students to submit it for an online submission. So like for the group conversation with the email tool, I would switch that to either a no submission, because they're not actually submitting something into the Dropbox. And it would be the same for if they're handing you, or maybe it's a participation grade. There's nothing they can submit, but you're still grading them. And then the last one's an on-paper assignment. So they're actually going to hand you a physical piece of paper in your face-to-face class, and then you're going to use the speed grader to grade it. Okay? But there isn't something they're going to submit to Canvas. And then the external tool is actually, you can integrate with publisher content. And so there are ways to insert an assignment for like My Math Lab or My IT Lab, and then the grade comes back into Canvas once they submit it. So when they click that link for that external website, it takes them to that assignment, they complete it, they come back to Canvas, all within inside Canvas. They don't have to log in again, and this is pretty huge if we can get it to work. Okay? And it's relying mostly on publishers to get that content for us, that integration done. Some publishers, there are some publishers that are great at it, and there are some not so much. Okay? So
the no submission, you would grade that the same way you would grade the on-paper one?
correct.
And still, you just go into the rubric. Okay.
Yep. Okay, and so to add a rubric, so you know what, I'm going to create a new one because this one already has one.
So this one, when you edit it, you'd probably change it from an exam to a assignment. Then.
I would.
Right.
So let's see here. I'm going to create, I don't know if I did a rubric on this one. I didn't. So this one, okay, so it's set to no submission. I'm going to change that to an online submission. They're going to upload files. Okay. They're going to submit their recipe, and then I'm going to add a rubric. So it has the Add Rubric button here. Okay. And then I can create that rubric. And I just encourage everyone, if you're going to use it for grading, check that box. Because once you submit the rubric, when you save it, it'll load the score automatically into the score box for the students. If you don't check that, you have to manually enter it. Now that's 2 seconds, but that's 2 seconds times 25 submissions times 25 drop boxes. It adds up. And so, but definitely check that whenever you're adding a new rubric to a class. Okay? So the rubric tool, it's as easy as clicking in the box and saying, you know, you have a submitted recipe. Okay? And so this would be actually a yes and no. Okay? And it's worth, you know, maybe it's 5 points for that, but then I would go in and say quality of recipe, and this is, maybe it's 20 points of their grade. So it adjusts the full measure. And then if I wanted to add multiple levels, maybe it's advanced, beginning, basic, or whatever. So I can come in here and say this is advanced. Notice that it acceptable. That's not the right acceptable. Okay, and I'm going to make that, instead of 10, it's 15. Okay, I'm going to add one more level here, and this is beginning, and that's going to be 10, and sucks. Let me get 0. Okay? Okay, and I can then keep adding criteria. Okay? And the rubric's just super fast to create. Okay? Now the hard part is creating the actual text that goes in those boxes. All I wrote is one word. But usually on the quality, I would write maybe almost like a paragraph of what an advanced quality recipe would look like. So that when I click that button and I say, yep, you got it, they already got that meaty feedback that I worked on. Meaty feedback. Maybe, and then this, the saucy feedback.
This will show them what they got on each criteria in the rubric.
Right.
Right. And show them to find the rubric.
Okay. So if I wanted to find a different rubric, and any rubric that you've built, you can add to that one. So you could create one discussion rubric and then use it for all 20 discussions that you have in your class. Okay? Same with what, we developed that rubric for logbooks in the safety courses. We could create it once and then use the rubric tool to add it to each assignment.
Oh, so there's like a logbook one?
Well, it's for the safety folks. It was an Angel, and it was really pertained to their logbooks and it really isn't a logbook.
Kind of a yes, no sort of thing?
They had 3 levels in each category. So the basic, distinguished, and okay. So that's the rubric tool. And then I want to just kind of touch real quick on the third type of assignments before we run out of time, which is the quizzes tool. And so to create a new quiz, click the Create a New Quiz button. Okay. And you put in any general instructions that you want to say. Some instructors will put this test has 50 questions, multiple choice, fill in the blank essay, or whatever. Or it could be, here's an article I want you to read when you take this quiz, whatever the quiz is on. Okay? And then the options kind of increase as you check boxes. So if I want the answers to be shuffled, which means that everyone's A through D is different, right? So it's going to automatically shuffle those. If you use questions like all of the above, don't check shuffle answers, because all of the above 9 out of 10 times will be the first option. It always works out that way. And then your students, unless you phrase it as all of these choices. Okay? You can put a time limit on that, and it's in minutes. You can allow multiple attempts. By just checking that box, it means it's unlimited. They have as many times as they want to take this particular quiz. And it'll accept the highest or the latest. Latest doesn't always mean the best score. Just keep that in mind. If I put latest, that means whatever the last time they take it, that's the score that's kept. Okay? And then I can also limit to the number of attempts that I want to give them. So I put in 2, okay, and it's going to take the highest of the 2. Okay? This option here lets students see their quiz responses. If I uncheck that, they hit submit. All they see is how many points they got right out of how many points possible. They don't know what questions they got wrong. They don't know why they got them wrong. They just know this is the score they got. If I check this box only, they get to see all of the questions and which ones they got wrong and which ones they got right. But they don't know what the correct answer is on the ones they got wrong. Okay, so it'll just say, this question was wrong. And they'll have to go back to their textbook or their notes to figure out why I got that one wrong. If I check this box, they can't see their quiz responses until after their last attempt. Okay, so they wouldn't be able to see what they got right or wrong until they take that second attempt, in this case. They would have their score after the first attempt. Okay? Then if I check this guy, they can now see the correct responses, but one of the added features that you want to probably include is that put in a date for when they can see that. This is the reason why, real quickly, had an instructor who was teaching dual credit. The students before class decided, you know what, we're going to work this out to the good of all of the class. So one student would take the hit and take it first and get all the correct answers on the quiz, then share those with his peers. And then it would rotate so that everyone else would get hundreds and this one person would get a low grade. And then the next time. And so on average, they all passed the class. And it wasn't figured out until, after the semester was over that the students were doing that. By choosing show correct answers after due date, that eliminates that ability for them to share those responses with their classmates. Okay?
What do you do for people that were sick when that
Okay.
was going on, they couldn't do it, and how do you keep them from seeing the correct answer?
In Canvas, it has what's called Moderate This Quiz button. Once I publish it, I have a Moderate This Quiz. Then every student in your class will be listed here. And then you just click the pencil next to that student's name and give them another attempt. Or manually unlock the quiz for the next attempt so they can go ahead and take it. If they've already submitted it, then you can just click that manually, just basically re-release that exam for the students. So, and it's under the Moderate Quiz area. This is also where if a student has a disability and they need extra time on every attempt, so it's already 60 minutes and they need 50% more time, I would put 30 extra minutes on top of the 60 for that student. Now they get 90 minutes on that quiz, and that's all I have to do. In Angel, you had to create a team, do special settings for each quiz, and so on. This one, click the pencil next to the name, give them the extra time, and then save, and they're good to go. Okay? So we'll go back to this unnamed quiz real quick. There's a couple more settings I want to show you. So we would show the correct answers after and the due date, would be March 14th at 11:59 p.m. And then actually I would make this March 15th at 12 a.m., 1 minute after the grade. They've have the last chance to submit that quiz. Now they can see what the correct answers are. Okay? Before that, they would only be able to see what points they got or what they got right or wrong. But they wouldn't know what the correct answer was until after the test was over. Okay? You can show one question at a time, which I encourage for online exams, just so that they can only see one question. They don't see the entire test and look through it and answer. They have to answer one question time. Adds a little bit more security that way. And then you can lock it after each question, so they can't go back and change their answer. This is intense.
They can skip.
They can't.
go to the next one,
Yes.
and they can go back.
But they can't go back. Once they skip it, it's marked as answered. So it makes it more high stakes, which is a lot of our health science programs. Their final, when they go to get their certification, is like that, like the NCLEX for nursing. They take the test, you have to either skip the question or answer it, and then you can't go back. And it's one question at a time. And so this is kind of just a way to train students in that mindset. You can create a password, which if you're going to have a proctor, you need that there so that the students can't start it until they have the password. And the proctor is the only one who gets the password. Okay? And there is a way to filter by IP address so that only students in a particular room can take that assessment. And if that's something that you're going to want to do, we'll work with you to get the IP address for the lab that your students will be taking it in, and then they can't access that quiz anywhere else but that classroom. Okay? Or the testing center, or wherever that exam is going to be. Okay? Yes?
You're going to talk about building a quiz in a minute?
Yep. Because after we get all our settings in place, adding questions is the next step. And that's actually here on the top. You have a settings tab and a questions tab. And then you create new questions.
Can you use Respondus?
Yes.
You can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it'll download to Canvas,
Yep.
just like it would with
Yep.
Angel.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So yeah, the question was, just for those who are listening in on the recording, if you want to publish with Respondus, that is a tool that you can use. And so you can create a Word document, publish or format it a certain way, and then publish it straight to Canvas through the Respondus tool. If you wanted to build your questions directly in Canvas, you just do it by clicking on the Questions tab and then New Question. Okay, and then I would type my question or insert a video or insert an image, and then I put in my answer choices, and then I signify the correct answer by clicking the green arrow next to the answer. These are the feedback boxes, so if they choose this answer, they would get whatever I type in this box as their feedback. Okay, or I can give general correct feedback, incorrect feedback, or just general, no matter what they pick, this is the feedback they get. Okay, so we have some instructors that will put a page number for the book that they need to go to, which I would encourage you not to, because as soon as you have all that in place, you'll change your textbook and that page number won't work, and you have to go in and fix all of your questions. Okay, other types of questions that you can add: true, false, fill in the blank, fill in multiple blanks, multiple answers, multiple drop-downs, matching, numerical answer, formula question, file upload question, and then the last one is text no question, which is used like maybe you're putting in a scenario, and then you're going to have 4 questions with that scenario. And so you would create that scenario, and then you don't have to keep doing it. You just have that one, and then the questions fall beneath that one. That usually will only work if you're doing all of the questions at once rather than a single question, right? Because it'll display the text no question and then the question, and then they have to go back and forth to get the scenario. So I would do it as just listing that whole thing rather than one question at a time. Okay? So one of the ones I've used recently is fill in multiple blanks. So what I did was I inserted an image of a microscope with numbers all over the microscope for them to label. And then underneath that I put a table for 1, 2, 3, 4, put the numbers in. And then I put in this right here next to the number. And that basically creates the blank that they need to fill in and associates it with the correct answer. So I'll just show you real quickly. So we'll just look for a microscope. This works for our demonstration purposes. Come on. Okay. Just something for you guys to know. If you can stretch the window to give you a little bit more working space. So I'll make that a little bit smaller. And then I inserted a table. Okay, and then I said 1, and then I basically put this, label 1, okay, and then 2, label 2. Every time you put one of those in there, down here, it adds what you typed to this drop-down. So now it has the correct answers for label 1, label 2. And so I can put those in there. And so for the microscope quiz, the students are going to type in what that is, and then Canvas will automatically grade it. And what they type matches what I put here, they'll get the points for that particular question.
So how did you label the parts that you wanted to?
The image already had numbers on it. So I had a microscope that had 1 through 15 with those little numbers. If I didn't, I'd use Paint. Microsoft Paint is a free program on every computer. Open up that JPEG of a microscope and then just write the numbers around it with little lines to the parts in there. And then save that.
Upload it differently?
No, once it's saved as a JPEG, I can just upload that image again, but it'll have the numbers on there because you can save as a JPEG from Paint. So it could be a body part, it could be a paragraph with, diagramming a sentence. It could be anything.
So you would get it from Flickr, save it as a JPEG, go into Paint, Microsoft Paint,
Add the numbers.
add the numbers, then re-upload it.
Correct.
Through your images, from your phone desktop.
Yep. Okay. So just as another question type that we've never had before, to be able to do multiple fill in the blanks. Okay. So one of the things that because every publisher is different, every of what test banks they have, some provide it in a Word document and that's all you get. Some people give you software like ExamView or TestGen. So we don't go in a lot of detail here. I just go ahead and schedule a time with you to say, okay, bring your test bank. We'll figure out how to get those questions into Canvas, and then I set you to it, because it's every single instructor has something a little bit different for each quiz. The key thing is it's not hard. It's just time consuming. Okay? So we have gone past a little bit of the hour setting, and I want to give you guys enough time, but I'm going to sign off on the recording.